Aloha, dear traders. Welcome to a great new week, the 30th of June to the 4th of July 2025. Great to have you here again. As always, I'm Atomashi Daniel, Vestralis Global Market Analyst. Now let's get right on to the action. We'll be starting with our fundamental analysis. Now, some pairs we're looking at this week include the GBP USD, the Euro USD, the USD Swiss, and as a consolation, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So what do we have this week? Today, Monday, is technicals day. All right. We don't expect any significant data from the major economies, especially where these currencies are tied to. So, um, yeah, paradise for technical traders. Okay, little interference from the fundamentals and the fundamental traders. So, let's enjoy the day today. For Tuesday, tomorrow, we have Fed Powell, the US Federal Reserve Bank, BOJ, that's the Bank of Japan Governor Ueda, the ECB President, President Lagarde, to speak at an ECB forum on central banking. Okay, that's tomorrow, 1st of July. So let's be on the lookout for that and see how hawkish or dovish comments from these guys could impact the markets. Okay, hawkish or dovish comments from the heads of these banks made on this day could impact the markets significantly. So be on the lookout for that. Now on Wednesday or same Tuesday, we have the US ISM manufacturing and Joel's job openings data that measures new jobs recorded in the month, okay, previous month especially, to see how well the jobs market is doing in the US. So of course, this data still quite strongly affects the market. So be on the lookout for that. And then the US ADP non-farm employment change that records change in employment or increase in employment, all right, or new jobs perhaps in different sectors of the US, except the farming industry. So be on the lookout for that. And then we have the roundup speech, closing remarks from ECB President Lagarde at the same ECB forum started the previous day. Okay. Thursday for me is a big day. On Thursday, we expect the major US jobs data, which includes the average hourly earnings, the NFP, non farm employment change, and unemployment rate. Of course, you don't need me to tell you about that. Data from this could also very strongly impact the market. So be on the lookout. Now, the Swiss CPI for the USD Swiss, of course, you want to pay attention to that, especially traders that do the Swiss pairs. All right. The USD Swiss has been showing some very nice opportunities all across board. So you want to do some trading on that one when the CPI data comes on board. Now, for Bitcoin and Ethereum, tariff war escalations or increased global uncertainties, or perhaps any form of global crisis could affect the market and majorly increase the volume of transactions. That's that for fundamentals. Now, let's go into our technicals. What do we have on the charts for this week? What does the chart tell us? So, in starting with the Euro USD, we see the Euro USD right around the resistance border of the channel right there, right? And at that resistance border, of course, we know that either of two things could happen. Price could either strongly break above it and continue, or perhaps respond to it and start to reverse. Okay. Um, in response, we've seen that negative divergence has also formed on the 1 hour chart, indicating the strong possibility of a brief pullback or perhaps a major reversal altogether. All right. On the same 1 hour chart, we see price, depending on how you look at it, form something similar to an ascending triangle right there. Okay. Now, the break of that ascending triangle below it, especially the support level 1.1700 psychological level here, could see price head to lower levels. By lower levels, I mean 1.1681 and below that 1.1658. If it goes below that, perhaps it could touch upon the major support point 1.1630, which a breakage of that going down could see price touch upon major levels like the 1.1590 or 1.1600 psychological level right there. Now, right here. Okay, price to play around that. And if it goes below that, perhaps the 200-day moving average we see here, we could see price touch upon 1.1547 and below that 1.1513 and the psychological level of 1.1500. And if price manages to break below that, perhaps could see it touch upon 1.14 1.71. Okay, and as I said before, depending on how you look at it, while at one point, on one end, it looks like it's formed an ascending triangle. If you follow the green lines right there, okay. On the other hand, it looks as though it's moving very nicely along a rectangle, a rectangle. All right, now let's go into the GBP USD. What do we see for the pound? The pound, just like the Euro USD, is right around the resistance border of an ascending channel right there, as can be seen. Okay, and on the daily chart, we see that it's broken past psychological level of 1.3600. If it goes above that 1.3700 and above that, we could see price touch upon where it is right now, touch upon 1.3800. All right, but to be more specific, right now it's formed something similar to a descending, a bearish flag pattern. Yeah, bullish flag pattern, uptrend, a flag. Okay, meaning that a break above the flag could see price go to higher levels. Hence, in going to higher levels, if it manages to head above 1.137, 1.3740, okay, then we could see price head to on higher levels, um 1.3757. If it goes above that, 1.3782, and above that, 1.3800. But on the flip side, if price manages to break past the support border 1.3700 psychological level right here, we could see touch upon 1.3682, okay, and below that 1.3650, which will be below the bearish flag at this point. And if that happens, we could see touch upon 1.3618, and below that 1.3600 psychological level for the GBP USD. Ladies and gentlemen, that's for the GBP USD. The next pair to consider, as we're looking at right now, is the USD Swiss. We see the Swiss right now around a level not seen since September 2011. This is where we are, and this is September 2011. Okay, it's currently at levels not seen since then, so you want to pay attention. Hence, we're not going to go too far when it comes to targets. Therefore, if you look at it from the ranging standpoint, it looks as though it's moving within a range. That's the rectangle right there. Okay. But on the other hand, it looks as though it's moving very nicely along a descending triangle, indicating that there's a strong possibility of a what? Of a bearish break, a bearish continuation. Hence, if price breaks below the significant swing low here of 0.7956, then we could see price touch upon 7940, below that 7920, and below that 7900 psychological level. And if price breaks above 0.800 psychological level, we could see it touch upon 0.8015, and below that 8034, and below that 8056. Ladies and gentlemen, now on the side of the rectangle, if price manages to go above where we have right now, then we could see it touch upon perhaps 0.8005, and above that, perhaps we could see touch upon 0.8016 if you're trading from the rectangle standpoint. So that's that for the Forex pairs. Now, let's look at crypto and see what crypto has got in store for us this week. Now, Bitcoin is showing some very nice opportunities in that it seems to have formed something similar to a fair value gap right here. I want to recover that fair value gap. All right. So for me, if you look at this, so we're looking at this right here, recovery of this guy extended up until here. Okay. Therefore, if price manages to break below 106,734.8 on Vestradus platform, then we could see it go below to 106,280.4, and below that 105,911.1, below that 105,371.5, and below that perhaps 104,897.1 on Bitcoin. I'm doing short targets on Bitcoin this week, but if price manages to go above 108,644.7, then my next most likely target would be 109,341.9, above that 109,870.0, above that 111,356.3, and above that we could see touch upon 110,056.5 and 111,776.3 for Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, I favor short-term bullish and short-term bearish targets. Um, Wherever I see opportunities on scalping, okay, on lower time frames for Euro USD, I favor generally bullish positions, but I see that the bearish momentum is picking up, so I'm open to short-term bearish targets on GBP USD and Euro USD. I'm bullish, but I'm open to short-term bearish targets on these two pairs. On the USD Swiss, of course, I'm bearish. Okay, bearish on the USD Swiss. I favor bearish positions on that guy. Now, the last but not the least, Ethereum. Ethereum has also formed somewhat something similar to Bitcoin in the sense that if you look at the green rectangle right there, it looks as though we have a fair value gap based on the green rectangle. Okay. Where price is right now with where it's formed with the range, if price manages to head back above two um 499.7, then we could see price touch upon 2542.9. If it goes above that, 2574.3, above that, 2606.1, and above that, 2640.0. But with respect to that, we should pay attention to the 200-day moving average. That's the red line right there. If price goes above that significantly, we could see it touch upon 25442.9, as I said, 2574.3, above that, 2606.1, and above that 2640.0 on Verstrado's platform. But if it heads back down and breaks significantly below 2360.0, we could see it go below to 2324.2 and below that 2292.8 and perhaps 2268.3. Okay, recovering the fair value gap on Verstrado's platform. But in the short term, right now, if it still breaks below 2432.1, okay, if it breaks below 2342.1 right here, then we could see it head to 2403.3. And below that, if you want to be conservative still, to 2360.0. On this guy, in recovery of the fair value gap, I favor short-term bearish positions and also perhaps also short-term bullish positions. Okay. But for the next 24 hours on this guy, in respect to the fair value gap I see right here, I favor bearish positions on Ethereum. So that's that for the weekly outlook. Thanks for joining. It was great to have you. I wish you a happy and profitable trading week. Have a good one. I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.